right. Hello, U.S. history class. This is Mr. Strahota. So I'm going to try this out as far as screen recording notes because I cannot personally be with you at this time. So hopefully you find this informative and helpful. And let's be honest, if you missed my voice, at least you still get that. Alrighty, moving on. So I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, number one, because I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're going to have a lot going on. And two, the longer my videos are, I have heard the more difficult it is to upload them. So I'm going to try to keep it short, sweet, to the point. If you need to rewatch this multiple times to get the information, that is obviously okay. So where we left off, and I know it seems like a while, is we left off with the Constitution, and we were doing the Constitution scavenger hunt. So now we're going to look at amending the Constitution and what that looks like. So again, remember, an amendment is a change or an addition to the United States Constitution. So, getting a little ahead of myself here, which is okay. So the framers, who were the individuals who were creating our Constitution, they cannot predict the future or write a perfect document. As we've talked about some in class, they couldn't predict when they did the Second Amendment dealing with the right to bear arms that we would potentially have machine guns and different weapons. So they said, look, if we need to change a previous amendment from, let's say, the Bill of Rights, we'll be able to add an amendment to fix that problem. So the Constitution provides a process for amendments to be added to it. That should say process for amendments to be added to it. Sorry about the grammar error. So they do say that the Constitution is like a living, breathing document because it can be altered or changed at any time. So like I've mentioned already, an amendment is a change or addition to the Constitution's written words. The last amendment we had was in 1992, which was our 27th Amendment, which basically gave Congress the right to increase their salary, but they could not do that until the next term. So kind of an interesting one. So that is what an amendment is. So how is an amendment proposed? So there are a couple ways. First of all, it can be by Congress. Our United States Congress, if it gets 2/3 approval by both houses, so by both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Also, as another check and balance in our government system, is at a national convention called by Congress, the state legislators can agree if 2/3 of the states want to create an amendment. So to do the math for you, that means if 38 out of the 50 states agree to add an amendment, then that is the second way an amendment can be proposed. So as you can see over here on the right side, it shows you the different ways that a amendment to the Constitution can take place. So again, it must be ratified or approved. It can be ratified in one of two ways. 3/4 of the state legislatures, so that's the 38 states I just talked about, or 3/4 of the states at a convention. So whether it's at a convention or just in state government, all 38 can vote to ratify that Constitution. And again, here's just a nice visual. So 2/3 of both houses in Congress can pass, and then 3/4 of the states, which is again that 38, or at a national convention, 2/3 of the states, or 34 of them, and then again ratified by the states. And you can see with the arrows, it can go either way, or it can go this way or that way. So two main steps to amendment being proposed and ratified. The informal amendment process, of course, that's former President Barack Obama. So this is where changes have been made to the Constitution over time without changing the written words of the document. So some examples of this would be congressional legislation, so just adding new laws through Congress. Presidential action, so the president from the executive branch can do this as well. Or, of course, a Supreme Court decision. So if you can see this is our three different branches. We have our legislative branch, our executive branch, and our judicial branch, who can also amend the Constitution. And then also political party practices have been altered as well. And then different customs can be altered as well. So the amendments, this is what we're going to jump into. So our Bill of Rights is, of course, our first 10 amendments, and there's been 27 amendments to our Constitution. Like I said earlier, the most recent was in 1992. The first 10 amendments, as we've talked about, are known as the Bill of Rights, and those were ratified way back in 1791. And again, like I've mentioned, last was in 1992. So we haven't had one in a while. It'll be interesting to see when or if we get a new one here in the near future. Some of the more well-known amendments include the 13th Amendment, and the 13th Amendment banned slavery in the United States forever. Obviously, there would still be issues with civil rights movements all the way into the mid 1900s, and we could argue there's still some issues happening today. And this was in 1865, which makes sense because the Civil War ended in 1865, and that's why there's a picture of Abraham Lincoln here, our 16th president. The 15th Amendment, which guaranteed former slaves and all male citizens the right to vote. Now, this would get a little interesting because then some government systems would put in a poll tax, which again we would make illegal as well in our Constitution. But the poll tax was a way to keep slaves from voting even after the 15th Amendment was put in place. But the 15th Amendment was supposed to guarantee former slaves and all male citizens the right to vote. And this was in 1870. Now, the 18th Amendment would ban the production and sale of alcohol, and this was called Prohibition. And this took place in 1917. And then, we're not going to get to the 21st yet, sorry. The 19th Amendment then gave women the right to vote, which took place in 1920. And then, here we go. So, you can see farewell to the 18th Amendment. The 21st Amendment would then end Prohibition. So, 18th Amendment made the distribution and creation of alcohol illegal, and then the 21st Amendment would say, hey, that was a bad idea, we're going to end it. And that was in 1933. So that is the conclusion of the slides for the amendments. I hope you found this as engaging as possible with what we're working with, and